Well, President Donald Trump signed a number of those executive orders aimed at changing immigration law and policy. That happened last night. But now there are some legal questions. Just moments ago, California Attorney General Rob Bonta on birthright citizenship. We want to let you hear what he had to say.
I am deeply disappointed that we're here one day into the new administration, and also not at all surprised. In the hours after President Trump was sworn into office, he issued an onslaught of disastrous and damaging executive orders, including one that seeks to end birthright citizenship. In one fell swoop, he stripped the constitutional right to citizenship for children who will be born of their parents.
All right, so had a little bit of technical issues there, but CBS News immigration correspondent Camilo Montoya-Galvez joins us now. So he signed that executive order saying he's going to end birthright citizenship, but this sent a lot of flurries about whether that is even legally viable. We know the ACLU is challenging it as well. But Camilo, would you agree that California will be the state to watch when it comes to immigration? Because birthright citizenship being taken on, but also so many farm workers here that power the California economy and arguably help to feed the nation. Would you say that California is going to be really ground zero for this conversation?
That's right. And it's also important to underscore that California is one of several states with sanctuary laws that limits cooperation between local and state law enforcement and federal immigration and deportation authorities, and that prevents ICE from being able to access local and county and state jails to apprehend, detain, and ultimately deport migrants who are in the country illegally, but who usually also commit other crimes. And it is really important to note that the new administration wants to target these communities that have these so-called sanctuary policies because they believe they are basically flouting federal immigration laws. And there are proposals, for example, to withhold federal funding from these jurisdictions to basically persuade them or force them, in other words, to cooperate with federal immigration authorities. We also know that ICE offices across the country have been instructed to ramp up enforcement operations, what advocates would call raids, in these communities that have sanctuary policies to arrest individuals with criminal histories, yes, but now the big change will be that if immigrants who are not targets of these operations, who are not criminals, but are still in the country unlawfully without legal documents, they can now be arrested and deported from the country because the new administration has immediately reversed guidance from the Biden administration that generally limited immigration enforcement to serious criminals and national security threats. That rule is no longer in effect.
Well, and we're also watching Chicago because it has been reported in recent days that that would be the first place where these raids would happen. What's the difference between the power of federal officers and ICE agents and local police where those raids are concerned? Because we've seen some Chicago leaders saying our local police will not participate, but they also won't intervene as well. What do you know there?
It's a good question. It's a critical question, I should say, because I am frequently asked what state and local authorities can do to potentially stop or prevent federal immigration agents from arresting undocumented or unauthorized immigrants in their communities. And the simple answer is that there's really nothing they can do to stop that. Federal immigration law allows federal agents at ICE and other federal immigration agencies to arrest, detain, and deport people who are in the country illegally, irrespective of whether or not they actually have a criminal record. What is really important to note, however, is that even though ICE agents have the authority to arrest anyone who is in the country unlawfully, they typically don't have a criminal warrant to enter private property. And so when they conduct these operations, they typically have to convince the homeowners to let them inside of that property to conduct these arrests, or they have to wait until that person comes out of that property, that home, and to arrest them outside of that premise. And so now advocates and lawyers in Chicago and other so-called sanctuary cities are telling people, don't open your doors to ICE agents and do not come outside unless you have, or you see rather, a criminal warrant.
Camilo, always great to have a conversation and break down these issues and what could happen, what may happen, and what might happen. We know you will be at the ready to let us know anything as we watch Chicago and then those farming communities in California and elsewhere in the middle of our nation. Thank you so much. Nice to talk to you today.